Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital is in the middle of a 3-year study, I should say, with football, ice hockey, and girls soccer players researching the physical and emotional effects concussions have on student athletes. So interesting. The goal is to improve diagnosis and treatment of concussions. Here to explain further, we have a lot of questions this morning. We have Dr. Patrick Mallaroni and Dr. Jennifer Kazakstein. Good morning.
Good morning.
A lot to dive in here. Let's go ahead and jump in. I think concussions, certainly as a mom with kids at home, as families are watching this morning, this is something that really needs to be looked at further. I feel like we're getting ahead of it a little bit. Tell us about what your team is doing.
Well, you know, I take care of a lot of kids with concussion, and one of the things, you know, we know a lot about how we should return athletes to sport after concussion, but we don't know what these long-term effects are of concussions. So we're doing a research study right now through Johns Hopkins All Children's, where we're testing kids before the season, high school athletes, you said playing football, ice hockey, and girls playing soccer. And we're looking at what the effects might be after the season by testing them again.
Well, and what's interesting, because it's this 3-year study, I mean, you kind of need to look at long-term effects. It's not like you can just do a study where they get hit and then you look, you know, 2-3 weeks later. Is that a component that you see as returning back to school that it needs to be looked at in this long period of time as well?
It is, and we're evaluating these kids annually to look at not only their emotional functioning, but also the behaviors, their attention span, if that's changing, their processing speed, how their overall thinking and learning might change, not only as a result of concussions, but these multiple hits that they're taking in every game.
Yeah, so even in kids that aren't getting concussions, we're studying them before the season, so we don't know if they're going to get a concussion or not, but we're looking at them before and after the season, so saying maybe there's an effect of being a linebacker for 3 months, that maybe you didn't get a concussion, but maybe there are some effects after the season.
So how are you studying this? How are you able to gather this information?
Well, we're doing a couple things. Before the season, we're taking blood and urine and saliva, and we're looking at biomarkers, so proteins. The second thing, Dr. Katzenstein is interviewing the student athletes and going through
Are these local athletes, by the way?
They are.
Okay.
Yeah, they're local athletes going through a neuropsychologic battery. And then the third thing we're doing is we're fitting them with mouth guards or sensors. I brought one of the mouth guards here, and what this is basically a computer. So the athlete wears this throughout the season, and while they're wearing the mouth guard, it registers the hits that happen to the head, where they're coming from, how hard they were, and then we will hopefully be able to go back and look at the kids that were hit more to see if that has a bigger effect after the season.
How long into the 3-year study are we now?
So we just finished, we're halfway through our first year. We just finished our first cohort. And
any surprising results or anything that's maybe going, oh, wait a minute?
Well, we're not judging the data right now. You typically do that at the end of the year. But the amount of hits that we're seeing have shocked me. There's a lot of hits in high school sports for sure.
But what I love about you said you have a son though, and it's not stopping you from putting him in sports or...
Absolutely. I have a son that he plays soccer and flag football, and he'll go on to tackle football. I think that as long as we know that what we're doing now we think is the right thing, where we're keeping them out of sport. When in doubt, sit them out. So if you think your child has a concussion, don't send them back to the field. And then when we return them when they're back to normal. And I don't think that'll cause long-term effects.
Well, and what is our take-home for parents watching this morning? I think there is this fear. I think it's a healthy fear of making sure you're doing the best for your kids. What's your take-home as we're kind of collecting this data? What can parents do today, now?
One of the first things would be removing from sport and from school as soon as you start to recognize symptoms of a concussion, and working with your team physician or a physician that you usually work with for your family in order to determine when is an appropriate time to return back to play and school, especially with the screen time, limiting screen time up front, and making decisions about how you can do that appropriately.
And that's so interesting, because cell phone, you know, 30 years ago, kids were playing sports, but we didn't have the technology that went along with it afterwards.
Right, and I think a lot of the concussion problems we're having today are associated with the screen time that kids have. If I was going to invent something that would make a patient with concussion feel worse, it would be a cell phone or it would be an iPad. Seriously, because all that eye scanning and quick movement of the eyes causes more symptoms with concussion. So I think many of us had concussions that weren't recognized when we were in high school, and now because of all the screens, the smart boards in class, everything else, that's bringing it more to light, and that's why we're seeing the kids suffer more today.
Fascinating stuff. You guys must come back when this, I know it's going to be big news when it is finally complete, but thank you for what your team is doing, and again, encouraging families to stay safe and healthy. That's what we all want.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you so much.